Only 1% of migrants who arrive in small boats since 2020 have been deported. That's according to new figures. And just 95% of Albanian migrants have been sent back, despite the UK having a separate returns agreement with the country, which is rather curious because the government often talks about how many Albanians have been sent back to Albania.
Yeah.
Now, the Shadow Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, says the figures show more truly shocking Tory asylum failure. So, the Conservative MP and Home Affairs Select Committee member Tim Loughton joins us now. Tim, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Hi, Tim. Are you as shocked as we are to find out that less than 1% of small boat arrivals have been deported since 2020?
I don't think shocked is the right word. I think exasperated. We had just in the last couple of weeks when we interviewed the senior civil servants from the Home Office to find that in the last year more than 17,000 applications by asylum seekers had been withdrawn and they didn't know where they are. So we've got a problem about a shortage of those who failed their asylum claims or are not pursuing them, actually leaving the country, and then we're not really sure where those who don't have a claim for asylum pending or have had it rejected are still in the country, but we don't know exactly where they are and what they're doing. The only bit of good news is that the rate at which the asylum applications are now being processed and the backlog being dealt with has risen considerably, which is great. But those people who failed to have a credible asylum claim then need to leave the country, and clearly that is not happening at nearly the pace it needs to happen.
Why is it happening at such a low rate compared to comparable countries in Europe? Is it that we don't have a place to send these people to? Or, frankly, is it that the cases that we build are far too shoddy in the first place?
Well, to be fair, there are many other European countries faced with even larger figures who are really struggling to deport those people who don't have a claim that is upheld. And this is why the Rwanda deal, which is a part, not the be-all and end-all, but a part of the government's migration strategy is so important because in many cases, those people that we are struggling to deport are from countries where it's virtually impossible to return them to. So hence having a third country, Rwanda, so that they will hopefully be deterred from coming across the channel in the first place, is an important way of making sure those people who do not have a credible asylum claim and know that once they make it into British territorial waters, they could be here for the foreseeable, that there's an alternative way of dealing with them that will deter them from coming across the channel at all in the first place.
Tim, I'm a bit confused here. Is it that the Home Office is failing to make decisions quickly on asylum claims, or is it because those who aren't deemed to have a legitimate asylum claim are not being deported because of legal appeals through the court system? What is holding it up? Because it's quite extraordinary that only 1,182 of over 110,000 have actually been deported. The government has such strong rhetoric when it comes to illegal migration, and yet we seem to be far better at dishing out visas than we are about deporting those who don't have legitimate claim to be here.
Well, it's a combination of all of those things. But as I said earlier, actually the government has speeded up and got much more effective at processing those claims. Of those claims, though, there are this year a much larger amount who seem to have had their claims upheld, a much larger amount who have then withdrawn their claims or had them withdrawn, but then we don't know where they are, and then only a small amount who have been returned. The real problem at the end of the day, Emily, is that it is quite difficult to return people to certain countries, and particularly those countries from which the major nationalities are coming across the channel at the moment, which is why you have got to do something that diverts them from coming across the channel and then being able to pursue their claims in the UK if they do not have a credible claim. We are bringing in these safe and legal route options next year, which is right for those genuine asylum seekers, genuinely fleeing danger and persecution, who have a credible case of coming to the UK. It's right that we do that, which means there is no excuse then to pay people smugglers to come across the channel in the most dangerous way possible when you don't really have any credible claim to be in the UK. And it's the small amount of people, and those numbers have reduced, fortunately, but we need to reduce them far, far more. And that's why the Rwanda scheme is an important part of that deterrent.
And yet the Rwanda scheme, critics of it would say that it will only take a few hundred potential people who cross in small boats. That could be one day's arrival, fills up the entire scheme. Is it your understanding, having scrutinised those who work in the Home Office yesterday, that this scheme is perhaps larger than we're being told, or is it really only a couple of hundred places?
Let's be clear, the Rwanda scheme is uncapped, but the Rwanda scheme is there and won't be judged on the basis of how many hundreds or thousands of people we send to Rwanda for whether it's successful. It will be judged on how fewer the numbers are coming across the channel, because it's become a lottery as to whether you end up in a hotel in Kent or on a plane back to Rwanda. And why do I think that that will be a deterrent? Well, when the Home Affairs Select Committee went to Calais earlier this year, we saw all the people involved in the operation of stopping the boats and the migration system over there. And what they told us very clearly was, when the government announced the Rwanda scheme, first of all, in May, I think it was, of last year, they saw a surge of migrants from Calais approaching the French authorities about trying to regularise their status in France, because they didn't want to risk being sent to Rwanda. The trouble is, of course, the scheme literally hasn't got off the ground yet, so that deterrent has evaporated. If we can start this scheme, a very clear message will go out, is that don't even bother to come across the channel, because you're going to end up on a plane to Rwanda. That will cut the numbers very considerably. I've no doubt about that. And then we can really work on looking after those people with a genuine asylum claim, and absolutely clamping down on those still using the boats who don't have any credible claim to come to the UK and are gaming the system and the generosity of the British taxpayer.
And Tim, just very quickly, while we've got you, it's been revealed the cost of the Bibi Stockholm barge, £22.5 million. That's effectively £41,000 a day that the taxpayer is expected to stump up for this. Do you get the impression that the Home Office, the government, may give up on the policy of barges simply because the costs are out of control and there have been so many issues?
Well, I don't know, but the reason they've looked at barges, and they are looking and bringing online former military bases, ex-detention centres and others, is because cramming more and more people into hotels around the country is not a sustainable option. It's completely wrecking the tourist market. You've got several towns that got a real concentration of these hotels, and it's not the most appropriate long-term accommodation, particularly when you've got children and families as well. So it's not that they want to do this. We've got to look at other alternatives. Now, the numbers of hotels being used are coming down. We need absolutely to scrutinise the amount of money that the Bibi Stockholm is going to cost. But barges are used in other countries. We were in Belgium a few weeks ago. They're using barges over there. Other countries do as well. It's a question of, you have to accommodate people somewhere once they come across the channel. So the solution is make sure every deterrent is in force to prevent them coming across the channel in the first place, on top of working with the French police to intercept more of them on French beaches. The trouble is, the French, when they intercept them, don't then arrest them, or they won't intercept the boats once in the water and bring the passengers back to French shores, when they would have paid €3,000-4,000 for a round trip to people smugglers, and that would absolutely kill that trade. If the French were to change their practice, we wouldn't have this problem at all.